Okay, now let's get into the actual slide technique itself. Before I start, I'm just going to give you a short little example of the slide technique. And I'm going to show you it in just like a basic beat, and I'm going to show you how fast you can go. I'm going to show you the uses of it. With that, though, you can see this is a technique for me, or maybe I'm more of a heel-toe player. So check this out. So as you can see, that's just me messing around a bit. Single pedal only, doing maybe some punk rock beats, doing some shots here and there. You can also use it in fills, and it is really cool to use. You never know when you're going to be in a setting where there's not two pedals here. You can be playing a house kit and there's only a single pedal, and you're going to need to do those kind of speeds with only one pedal. Also, I think it's essential to learn either way, because there's a lot of cool things you can do by keeping your hats closed and open while you're doing fast single pedal stuff, or there's some really cool fills that you can do that only utilize one pedal, not two. So I mean, there's tons of uses for it, so learn it regardless. So how I developed the slide technique is actually, I didn't even know what the slide technique was when I was starting the drums. I was wanting to play a lot of Blink-182 and Sum 41, all those poppy punk kind of songs, and I would get to these tempos where I couldn't keep up with the drummer. And because I'm a heel-up player, my foot was going as fast as it could. You can't play 16 notes, little doubles like that with just any kind of technique. You have to develop one of these, either the heel-toe or the slide. So I didn't know that, so what I would do is I would actually bring my foot down on the footboard a bit, because I was noticing that it would take less work to get a stroke by playing halfway down the pedal. So what I would do is I would try to see how fast I can play two strokes like that. And it was actually a lot of work. I mean, it's less work than playing at the top of the footboard, but it was still a lot of work. I'll show you what I was doing. Now, as you can see in that example, my whole leg was actually coming up, my ankle and my foot was coming up, and it was hitting twice. And for really fast speeds, that was a lot of work. It was tiring, and it just didn't seem efficient to me. So what I would do is I would realize that as the footboard was coming up after the second hit, if I pushed my foot up to the top of the footboard, I would catch the pedal while it's coming up, giving it almost a response that I can push down really easily and get a second stroke. And I would start doing this, and it would take me a bit of time to start building up to speed. But once I did, I realized that it wasn't two strokes anymore. It was almost like a solid motion. And my leg was only doing one lift rather than two, like I was doing before. So I kept developing it, I kept practicing it in these songs, and I realized that this is something that you can start controlling with different tempos, and this is something that my body naturally started to do once I hit a certain speed. I figured out about maybe 2 years later that it was called the slide technique, and people have been doing it for quite a while. Now, it took me my own thought process and my own trial and error to figure it out myself. So I mean, the fact that you guys can learn something sooner than later is a huge benefit to you. So let me show you how to develop this exercise and develop this technique so you can start applying it in your beats and fills. So first, you saw how I started in the middle of the pedal and how I ended at the top of the pedal. Try that for the first couple times. I mean, don't have to go too fast, but just get one stroke in the middle of the pedal and get your second stroke with your foot at the top of the footboard. So watch this. So just practice that at first, because what you're going to realize is that once you start doing it, you're going to feel this push on the pedal that you can see. If you look at my knee and you look at the angle that my actual knee is, it just moves a little bit. And my leg doesn't move that much at all. Whereas before I was lifting my leg to get two strokes, now you can see it stays almost in the same height, and it's just the angle of my knee and my foot moving up. Watch it again. Now, when you pick that up to speed, you're going to notice that both notes are going to sound very identical. When you're playing it slow, you can kind of hear the second note isn't as loud. That's just because I'm demonstrating it right now. Once you actually pick it up, start playing it in music, start playing it with the right amount of energy, you're going to notice that both notes sound very similar. This is very, very important because I've seen drummers play different techniques that you can hear one of the notes a little bit softer than the other one. With the slide technique, I find because you're a heel-up drummer and because you have the power of your full leg and you're utilizing the footboard correctly, it actually has a great power to both strokes rather than just one. So let's actually get into some of these exercises here. Now, the first exercise that we're going to do is very similar to the one that we were just practicing, except this time it's going to be to a click track. It's going to be an actual exercise. Make sure you practice it with the click track. And take it slow. Start at the middle of the pedal, work your way to the very tip of the pedal. Again, make sure that you're comfortable with your pedal settings. Make sure you're either got shoes or socks. I don't recommend barefoot, but if you want, if that's what's comfortable for you, give it a try. And also make sure you track your progress. It's very important to track your progress. Just write down the click tempo that you're actually playing at and how long you've done it for, and you can see improvement that way too. Let's give this one a try. Now, for me, it's a little awkward to play at that tempo because I'm not used to playing the slide technique that slow. You see, how I developed it was I was going as fast as I could without using the technique to the point where I had to do something, otherwise I was going to be hitting a wall and not being able to go any faster. So I don't usually play it that slow, but this is a great exercise for developing the motions. Once you start developing these motions and practicing at a tempo like that for a long period of time, you're going to build what's called muscle memory. And that's where all of a sudden your leg, your shin, your ankle, every muscle in your leg is going to start remembering that's what that is. That's how I do that exercise. And then once you start building it up, it's going to be a lot quicker. On to exercise number 2. It's a 16th notes, so it is a bit faster. If you're not up to speed yet, slow it down or go back to exercise 1. Here we go with 16th notes. All right, now as you can see, when you start getting faster and playing 16th notes like we were just doing, you're going to notice my foot isn't going to the end of the footboard all the time. And the reason why is because once you start getting faster speeds, you don't need to actually move to the top of the pedal. The reason why I was doing that before, like I was saying, is for muscle memory. And again, that is when your muscles start understanding and your leg, your shin, your ankle, they start developing this repetition and it becomes more easy for them to actually play. So over-exaggerating those motions, going from the middle of the pedal all the way to the top, is going to help build that muscle memory and build those muscles. Once you start getting faster speeds though, as you just saw with the 16th notes, you're going to notice that my foot doesn't go to the top. It only goes to maybe about the middle. I'm going to show you here, again, without the sheet music. So you can see that it's a solid motion and I'm starting in the middle and I'm only going maybe a couple inches up. That's all I need in order to get that second bounce and that second stroke. So when you're playing the first exercise, make sure you over-amplify and over-exaggerate those motions so you're getting that muscle memory and you can start understanding the way the slide technique actually works. Now let's jump right into the third exercise. This one is an 8th note triplet feel. And it's going to kind of sound like a gallop. I'm going to play it on the hi-hats and the bass drum. And make sure to play it with a metronome and track your progress. If you find that the beat is easy enough for you to play without the technique, you might want to speed it up a bit. You want to get it to that tempo where you have to start using a different technique in order to play it. Only then will you start developing this technique. So give this one a try. Cool, so now you guys are playing it in a beat. It's sounding like a technique that actually has some use to it now. Let's jump into 4 and 5. These ones are kind of more like a rock, punk rock type of beat. And in my opinion, especially this next one, this is essential. This is the beat that made me have to learn the slide technique. I was playing to, I think it was a NoFX song at the time, and I don't know if you ever listened to that. They're a punk rock band that are very fast. They have a lot of energy in their songs. Definitely check them out if you haven't yet, because it's a great way to start inspiring yourself to play these beats. And this is basically some of the beats that I learned with the slide technique, and I wanted to play them, so I kept playing them and practicing them. And like I said, there was that year before I even understood what the slide technique was, but after I was playing all these songs, I was realizing I can play these tempos. But why? It's because I learned the slide technique. So try these ones out. I'm going to play them for you in a quick tempo. If you can't play them that fast, slow them down. But definitely start playing these as fast as you can and chart your progress. Check these out. So there are 5 exercises on how to develop the slide technique. You don't need to have 100 different exercises or 500 different patterns to practice. You only need a few of them. Because once you start developing the technique, you're going to realize that it's very easy to apply it to any kind of beat or fill you're doing. You have to have the motions down first, though. And these exercises are a great way of developing that. Check out some other videos in this section where I'm going to show you how to apply this to some beats and apply it to some fills, so you can get the idea of what I mean when I'm talking about developing this technique in your playing. And lastly, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to implement this into your weak foot on the pedal, because if you wanted to, you can get some really fast speeds doing double stroke rolls using the slide technique on both single and double pedal. I'll see you around.